cicadas made an annoying fuss. Their chorus covered up the suspicious noise of me breaking twigs underfoot, and their course filled the path for me to head. Ahead of me, letting me know I would be alone for some time. The cicadas blessed the path I walked, encouraging me with every last ounce of strength they had. The sky was far above. In not even an hour the veil of night would draw near, and the sky would be tinted with dusk. By that time the higurshi would let me hear their chorus in place of the cicadas. What then happened? When that happened, would everything be over with? Would everything have ended? I said something along those lines when I left Sato's fate up to a public agency, but this time was different. I would do it. I would carry it out. I would end it. It would all be over very soon. Everything would end. Yes, when the higurshi cried. There was nobody at school. I couldn't hear the playful voices of children. This was the first time I'd seen the school with such a lack of human presence. Still, I quieted my breath and looked around, not wanting to be unprepared. It had gotten darker outside, but it was almost like my eyes could see more clearly now. I made absolutely sure of my safety. Then walked to the heavy construction machine I'd hidden the metal bat behind. I had a tinge of worry, a premonition, that someone had found the bat and hidden it somewhere else as a prank. If that happened, would I take that as an opportunity to desist? If it really wasn't there then, the sensation of chilled metal, it was still here where I left it. It hadn't run away. Satoshi hadn't run away. He'd waited here, patiently, for me. Sorry for the wait, Satoshi. It's been a long time coming. You prepared for this? Through the metallic touch, Satoshi grins at me, and in my mind, that's what I should be asking you, you know? I did this last year already. You should be more worried about yourself. Right on, Satoshi. Let's show him a bad time. Satoshi's bat got lighter and lighter, and fit into my hands like it was being absorbed. It didn't feel wrong to swing this. I could move it around so naturally it was like an extension of my own right arm. Of course it felt like that. Satoshi and I were holding the bat together. Next, I would make the call to lure the man out. It wasn't a bad time for it. My friends were doubtlessly parading happily through the stalls. I hadn't considered where to make the call from. My house and Sato's were pretty far apart. If I called from my house, I wouldn't make it. Couldn't I use the school phone? But as I thought, the room was locked up and I couldn't get in. Shit. I'm so naive. You should have at least figured this part out. I couldn't call him. And just for that, was today all over? I'm sorry, Satoshi. And just as I cursed my own naivete, a miracle occurred. A bicycle came into the schoolyard. It was a familiar middle-aged man. The one from the Forest Service field office. Why? Wasn't today Sunday? Was he here to pick up something he forgot? Anyway, the forest officer went around back and felt around in his pocket, then unlocked the door and entered. The best possible coincidence, and it had to be Satoshi who saved me. The metal bat, though just my contact with it told me this was a chance I couldn't allow to slip by. The sections for the forest office and the school were neatly separated. I felt the man head into the forest office's storehouse, which was so far in the back students weren't allowed into it. The door didn't match its fittings well, so it didn't close all the way, and the gap in the door opened slowly as if to lure me in. I took a deep breath and went in. I tiptoed along silently and stealthily and made it into the teacher's lounge. That was the only place with a phone. As I held my breath in the teacher's lounge, I held the Forest Service officer, heard walking back over, then back door clattered shut and was locked. I glanced out the window at the schoolyard and watched as the man got on his bike like nothing had happened and rode out the school gate. The school once again was emptied, becoming deathly silent. I waited for a bit to make sure the silence was the real deal, then reached for the telephone on the principal's desk. I fished Satoko's house phone number out of my pocket. Yes, the number in the class directory for Satoko had been the one from their house now, where she lived with her uncle. I touched the dial with my fingers, and then thought for a moment about what to say exactly when he picked up. Despite how many times I'd gone over it in my head last night, now that I had my finger on the dial like this, it started to seep out of my mind like a cracked bucket leaking water. Simple would be best. More importantly, to say it straight and not sound suspicious. I counted off 3 heartbeats and spun the dial. The call sound. Would Satoko's uncle pick up? Now, of all times. The hope that he wouldn't pick up, and the feeling of doom and the knowledge that I couldn't save Satoko if he didn't, whirled around in a vortex. Hello? It was the voice of a grumpy man. Like he had just woken up. He picked up. Hello? Say your name, so I know you're Hojo, you asshole. It wouldn't be terrible if I got it wrong. I made up my mind. I had all the initiative on my side. Here we go. This is Shishibone Okonomiya Police Station. Am I speaking to the Hojo residents? I was changing my voice, but did he really think I sounded like an adult? Would he believe I was the police? Oh, yes. This is Hojo. We currently have your daughter Satoko Hojo here with us. What? Satoko. What did that brat do? He fell for it. I could tell by how tense he was that he didn't doubt my words. I can explain the particulars once you have arrived here. Would you mind coming to the station right away? Right now? I already took a bath myself, so I don't really want to go out like this, though. What? You don't want to come because you already took a bath? Yes, right away. Right away? Jeez, man. What the heck did Satoko do? I'll explain once you're here. I will be waiting. Thank you for your assistance. Ack. 1 second. I don't know where the police station is. Where am I going? You moron, what the hell? The Okonomiya police station? I don't know where it is either. Are you from around here? Why don't you know that? A greasy sweat came over my body. Eventually, just as I was about to choke, he spoke. "Oh, next to the fire station, right? That's pretty far." Thank goodness, he remembered on his own for me. I didn't care where the police station was, so long as he left his house to get there. "Then we will be waiting here." "Oh, wait. Who am I asking for once I get there?" "Oishi-san." "What is your name?" On top of that, he wanted to know my name. "Just leave your goddamn house already." God damn it, man! Mabaishi. Could have just said Oishi. Jesus. Excuse me. That was close. I almost thoughtlessly told him my real name. I managed to change the last syllable of it, but I put the receiver down like I was running away. My fingers were trembling and I was soaked with a tepid sweat. I wasn't just nervous about the phone call. With that call, everything had finally put into motion. I left the school. It was locked before, but it was easy though, enough to open from the inside. But I couldn't lock it again after I left. In terms of being thorough, I wanted to lock it, but I couldn't waste time going back to the teacher's lounge looking for the key. I needed to rush back as fast as I could to ambush him. I zoomed back to the scene on my bike. If Sato's uncle got out of town before I got there, everything would be over. He'd learned there was no one at the station named Mayabashi, and things would get pretty messed up. As I returned at full speed, I passed a family where yukatas. They must have been on their way to the festival. Many people in Hinamizawa knew my face, though I didn't know theirs. Even just passing by them like this made me uneasy, but I didn't generally come around here, so those living in the area might not have known much about me. That didn't matter right now. I needed to get back as fast as possible to control my breathing and to ambush the man. I hid my bike in a thicket and picked up Satoshi's bat, which I'd just left hidden in the shade, and then I held my breath waiting to see someone. I wondered if he still hadn't gotten here, or maybe he went right out after the phone call and passed by here already. I couldn't figure out which it was, and was set upon by an indescribable impatience. Calm down, Keiichi Mabura. Even if he came here already, he'd pass by here on the way back, right? The end result would be the same. It wouldn't change the fact that he'd die. He'd probably be coming on his motorcycle. How would I stop him then? I figured it would just be best not to think too hard, just hit him as he passed, or beat him out of his seat. The path was made of pebbles. If I hit him as hard as I could, and made him lose his balance, he wouldn't be able to help falling. And then the course of the higurshi stopped. The sound of a bike approached from far away, and I couldn't tell what sort of motorcycle it was from the sound, but I'd seen it parked before, so I know. It was getting rapidly closer. It was almost here. If he just went a little further, he'd cross into that thicket and appear in front of me. I'd take a moment to make sure it was him. Then when I had, I'd put my plan into action. The motorcycle appeared. A few easily identifiable characteristics told me it was Sato's uncle's bike, without a doubt. Was it really him? Was it really Sato's uncle? I wasn't making a mistake, was I? I looked at its characteristics again. Its color, shape, and most of all, the man's clothes. And face. Those last feelings of hesitation. I did away with them. Satoko, now. Your Nini will end it, okay? Closer. Closer. The bike came closer. Let's go. Satoshi! Yeah. Whoosh. I jumped out of the thicket. I used my shoulder to basically tackle the uncle on the bike with all my might. Roar! He gave a dumb shout as his bike completely lost its balance. I know it's probably odd for me to say, but honestly, given that it's a moving object, our best option would have been to do a thrusting motion. And move our fist up at the very end of the bite, at the bat. Because if we just swing, or even tackle, we're likely to hurt ourselves. And if we just do a straight thrust, we're likely to sprain our wrist. But if we do a thrust and then we move up, we should be able to mainly focus on knocking him off balance without putting too much force into our own body. Her uncle tossed to the ground, didn't understand what had just happened, and groaned for a few moments, crouched on the ground. Yeah, this kind of looks like a cross for, for a grave of a cemetery. My breathing started to become ragged. No, I couldn't have this emotion. Some weird secretion crossed through my brain and nearly made me hallucinate. Her uncle was groaning. Now was the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. What was I doing? All the sounds in the world cut off. My mental chaos from a moment ago withdrew like a lie, and I could feel the temperature in my head rapidly cooling down. The tension in my muscles all went away like the strings had been attached had been cut, and I let my hands dangle at my sides. It wasn't quite like exhaustion. Have you calmed down now, Kei Chimabara? Do you need to remember again why things got to this point today? Scrape, scrape. I stepped over the pebble path, taking one step, another step, then another towards Satoko's uncle. The more I walked, the more my breathing calmed. The more I walked, the more I felt my body cooling, calming, chilling with thrust. Yes, at this moment this guy had lost permission to live. I had just rescinded it, so he mustn't stay in this world any longer. If he lived any longer, if Satoko's misfortune continued, it would be my responsibility for having allowed him to live. I could feel the cooling substance going through my whole body, even down to my capillaries. Her uncle was at my feet now, still on the ground like an idiot. I smiled coldly at how ridiculous he looked. Ugh, that hurt. That's all it took for it to hurt. Satoko's heart hurt much more, and now you're gonna feel that. And with your life, I'll make up for her pain. I erased all unnecessary information from my mind. I prioritized the murder of this man. Execute. 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 Wham. Utterly calm, I delivered my first strike to the back of his head. I wanted to get at the most effective spot. At least during that first moment, I'd have to attack him while he was at his most defenseless. Aga! And if he was hit in the head, he'd cover his head. It was a defensive reaction all humans made, like machines. He used both hands to cover his head, so he couldn't pick himself up off the heap he was in the ground. Like pounding a caterpillar into the dirt, I hit him, over and over. If he covered his head, I'd hit him in the side. If he covered his body, I'd go for his head. If he rolled over, I'd strike his feet, his knees, his elbows. I didn't care where anymore. By just delivering one blow after another, I induced panic in him. I retained my overwhelming advantage, but I hadn't done nearly enough to deliver a fatal wound. Her uncle skillfully pulled himself up off the ground and started to run like a fleeing rabbit. Didn't we hit him in the knees? How was he running? It wasn't a judgment he made after seeing my face and deciding whether to fight me. Right now, he was fleeing by instinct. Just trying to escape from the threat that had presented itself. I mean, isn't that how you play Final Fantasy XII? Like, if you're running around and you're, playing the game, if you take a massive blow to your HP bar, you don't even bother to turn to try to look what it is that's attacking you. You run before you get KO'd. Then you like use an ether and a high potion, then you come back and try to survey it from a distance. But yeah, once you take enough damage to your HP bar, you don't bother even checking to see what's attacking you. You get out of there. A counterattack from a more physically capable uncle. Just trying to escape from the threat that had presented itself. A counterattack from the more physically capable uncle was what I was most concerned about. He may have run, but it wasn't all that unlucky. The odds were in my favor. The uncle didn't run away towards people, but off the path and into the woods. How pleasant that he would run in a direction where nobody else was. He was fleeing into a strange geography like a rat that instinctively runs into tight spots over and over. Yes, he was no longer human. He was a rat. The blood vessels in my legs expanded, and my total oxygen supply increased. It'd be interesting if he wound up running into one of the traps Satoko, especially that one where she made a particularly nasty nail in it that technically I told her to dial down because I thought it might actually seriously hurt somebody. I lowered myself to gain the most explosive velocity I could. Without breathing, I became a wind-like shadow and dashed. I crossed thickets, crushed dead tree branches underfoot, and dove through the woods like a bullet. He ran so cowardly, arms flailing as he went. After catching up to him, I didn't need so much as a blink of an eye to strike him again. My senses, mind and body, were all sharpened purely to kill this man. This was the first time I'd felt like this. Well, this was the first experience I'd ever had, killing someone. It felt natural continuing to do this for the first time, and that meant I had this much talent for killing. Or perhaps the act of killing was so simple that anyone could do it. I didn't struggle or grow tired at all chasing the clumsily fleeing uncle. No matter how much he ran, it was like he was trying to get away from his own shadow. He couldn't get away from me. I could easily aim at the back of his shoulder and his head even from his unnatural stance. Each time I struck him, he wailed in pain, begged pitifully for forgiveness, but it didn't disturb my mind. I was neither excited nor plagued by hesitation, like before. I felt sharp. I felt like a carnivore. Of course, so did the uncle who was trying to run away because he didn't want to die. He didn't want to be eaten like a herbivore, running with all its might, trying to get away. Despite all the attacks, despite all the hits, he kept on fleeing without even staggering. And despite the bad footing in the forest, he impressively never tripped over anything. But there was no need to admire that fact. It was simply proof that he was no more than an animal. If he was chased, he would run. If he was going to be killed, he would run. He bared his fangs at the weak, but couldn't oppose the strong whatsoever. He was lowly, vulgar, a diminutive animal. Such a puny little creature had harmed Satoko. Scar after scar to her body and mind, deep wounds that might not ever go away as long as she lived. My cold and calm emotions suddenly turned into bestial ones. My personality changed into something specialized for murder, purely to devour the diminutive animal before me. The uncle gave a puny little shriek, covered his head, and ran. I'm impressed by how much you can run. Fine, run as much as you like. I will be your death. I will choose the moment at my leisure. Your legs will hurt, your lungs will feel about to burst, your head will hurt from lack of oxygen. If you feel the pain has become worse than death, then by all means, stop any time. Without turning back, suffocating on his terror of the approaching death, he just ran shamefully onward. He ran, but was chased, his head bashed with the metal bat, sweat and drool flying everywhere, blood clinging to him. From his mouth came the sounds of coarse, irregular breathing and high-pitched screaming that verged on crying and pleas for forgiveness to someone. I didn't know who. Each and every second was a second of atonement that I granted him. Now run. Run, run. Run, 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 run. Then fall and moan and die. Where did you even crawl out of anyway? You were never here before. If you were never here, you never should have showed up. If you never showed up, our lives would still be fun and enjoyable. We would have gone to today's festival, waited for each other, and gone to the shrine laughing. We would have been playing amongst the stalls right about now. We'd be browsing the strange food stalls you only saw at festivals, trying to get prizes from the goldfish scooping and ring throwing or target practice. Mion would surely make it into a competition, and we as a club would have a grand time. And everyone would have been cheering for Rika-chan's dedication dance, and everyone would say how fun it was, and it would give us energy for the days to come. Fun, enjoyable, and funny, warm times spent with friends. And that would have happened, but it didn't, and now it was all smashed to pieces. There was no doubt that would be what the world was like if you never showed up. You were the obstacle, the mistake, the heresy in that world. But I would correct that mistake now. I would erase you and make it so that this last week never happened. Tonight was the Tatarigoroshi festival, the holy night where taking just one life was permitted in the name of the Oyashiro-sama's curse. It looked like the higurshi stopped crying at some point. When the higurshi cried, everything would end. And the higurshi silenced. Lowly one, the hour of atonement is at hand. The higurshi have stopped their crying. Thus it is the end. The end. The end. The end. End! You don't have to run anymore. Die with those dirty brains of yours smashed everywhere. Gah! Lightning and thunder struck like an explosion. It was so loud it shook the ground, and I smelled gunpowder. The response I got this time was clearly different from the one before. The metal bat crunched into the crown of his head. It was like the top of his head had caved in. The bat felt like it was biting him. It had been the final killing attack that visited him. When I didn't overlook the opening, he was left as his knees gave out under him. I remained alert for a few moments, then thud, thud. I planted both knees in the ground, and then fell forwards, burying my head into the ground. I'd been holding back my ragged breathing, but now it all came out of me like a dam bursting. My head was dizzy and light, and unable to maintain my balance, I leaned against a nearby tree. The uncle didn't try and guard his head any longer. After a disgusting sort of spasm, he stopped moving. Did I get him? Did I get him? For sure. I fought back my exhausted urge to fall over where I stood, and drew towards him carefully, bat still at the ready. It was possible he was faking it and trying to wait it out. Should I check for a pulse? I realized right away, though, how unnecessary that would be. If I thought he might be faking it, then I would just have to keep pummeling him until I was satisfied. I fought back my ragged breathing again, and then I swung my bat far above and brought it down. Clunk. His body leaped like a bow, but he didn't try and cover his head. Then once again I aimed for his head and swung. His reaction was the same this time. After spending a few moments making his head into a mochi, the hits gradually started to feel different, and it started to spray a filthy, dark red liquid everywhere. That was enough. It was definite now. I had absolutely killed him. There was no sense of accomplishment, nor one of regret. I didn't feel anger towards Satoko's uncle, nor pity towards Satoko herself. Instead, right now, I was feeling like my heart had been stolen by the downpour. It had begun to rain at some point, and how comfortable it felt. The rainwater drenched my body and dripped down to the ground. The excitement within me faded as the rain washed away the grime. In exchange, my shoes were so wet they made splashing sounds. And despite abusing Satoshi's bat like that, it wasn't bent very much. There were a few dents in it, probably from hitting the man, but nothing that would make it seem different from before. Instead, it had been stained with black, with red, with mud and blood, but that itself would be evidence. The one piece of evidence needed to prove that my delusions hadn't just been daydreams, and that I'd ended Satoko's uncle for all eternity. All right, Keiichi, calm your mind. The time for passion is over. Now is the time to be cold as ice. I needed to bury the body. But where was I? I'd simply followed the man as far as he ran into the darkness. I couldn't take a guess as to how far we'd run. It was already pitch black around us, and the only light I had to go on was very faint lights on the road a little further down. It was so dark out. I hadn't noticed the darkness until just now. My vision was so good, I could see the man's ugly hairline. I could have counted the pores in his head. It was only now that I realized how much crazy strength I had mustered at that moment. I went over to the street light. I looked up and down the road, desperately trying to figure out where I was.